Dave's really good, but we got some great feedback and phone calls, and people have been patient. I just love this feedback from this unnamed texter. I wish you'd signed it because I'd love to praise you, Robert in Oak Park or whoever you are. This is just a ploy to force Miami to trade with Washington so Chase falls into their lap. I mean, it creates it creates that possibility. Lions are looking to trade Stafford because they want Tua. Now, maybe Quinn shouldn't have out and out denied it, but maybe Quinn thinks like the damage is already done, and it makes Miami want to leapfrog Detroit. And if this is nothing, if you can manipulate information to get Chase Young, I'd manipulate information to get Chase Young.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is we go back to that Peter King report from a few weeks ago where Peter King was talking to some people in Florida, and they said to him, the Redskins really could set themselves up for years by trading out of number 2 with all the draft capital they could get, that they don't have to take Chase Young, which is something that we've been talking about for a long time. Something I've said for a long time. I don't think that the Redskins should stay at number 2. I think they should trade out of it because of that very reason. That's a real possibility. And if it's Miami they trade with, or the Chargers who pick right behind Miami, they're going to get a huge haul in return. And again, pushing Chase Young to 3, which is what not every Lions fan, but I think most Lions fans would love to have Chase Young if they can get Chase Young.
I do. And you guys know this. Listen, this is why I said weeks ago, if what ends up happening is Burrow goes 1, Young goes 2, and the Lions have to pick at 3 and can't trade out, that cannot happen at this point, right? With so much going on, talk, rumors, Twitter, Instagram stories, Bernie Smilovitz has gotten involved now. They cannot stay at 3 and just draft, right? This cannot be. That cannot happen.
We're setting ourselves up for them to make a solid pick at 3 and be wildly disappointed.
I'm just saying you still have not put the sign up on the window, and that tells me that you don't want to put the sign up on the window because every day that passes, you believe more and more that the Lions must trade out of 3.
Either they trade out of 3, but the Washington thing is gaining so much steam of them trading out of 2.
I love it.
I know. Kang's back there pitching a tent. Let's go to Edward in Detroit. What's up, Edward?
And I'm not even going camping.
Good morning, guys. Let's just say right from the top, I doubt that the story is true, but let's just, for the sake of having a fun morning, let's just talk about it. Thankfully I don't have much experience with smoking or, failed marriages or something like that, but fixing those things, I imagine, are processes. You don't take a pill. You're not gonna snap a finger and reverse it and change it. And after 60 years of being the most futile team in sports, fixing the Lions is a long-term process. They're going to have to begin to get on that train eventually. And I think that where coaches, general managers, offensive coordinators, etc., have died on this pile of winning now with Matt Stafford. With Stafford on the roster for, as we go into year 12, which is crazy to think, maybe for the better part of the last, 6 years or so, they have been chasing the notion of winning now. And blame whoever you want, talk about Stafford however you want. Like Gator said, it's an old conversation. I just doubt it's not going to happen with Stafford in terms of being on a flawed team. He's probably good enough to go somewhere and to be the final piece. But to say that he's going to be the man that carries the Lions to the new threshold is likely not going to happen.
I guess here's the thing, though, Edward, is that what you said there, winning with Stafford on a flawed team isn't going to happen. And that I completely agree with. There's no evidence. Then the solution is to fix the flaws more than to move the guy that you can win with. That's why I'm against this and against moving him is – I agree completely with the notion that Stafford isn't a guy to win on a flawed team. Brady might be, Rodgers might be, at a point in his career, Roethlisberger might, I don't know. But Breeze, there's guys that have been able to win with massive gaping holes on their team, and Stafford's not one of these guys. Stafford would be more of a kind of guy that wins a Super Bowl like Eli Manning did. But at the end of the day, they're either going to move forward with Stafford and try and fix the flaws or move forward without Stafford and try and fix the flaws. Having Stafford generally doesn't keep them from being able to fix the flaws.
Well, let's face, for example, I don't know what year it was, but I forget what Caldwell's first year was when they won, 11 games. and they had that horrible game in Dallas that robbed them of a playoff win. Do we expect the Lions to be better than those teams anytime soon?
I mean, only if Chase Young. I mean,
those teams were on the cusp. Those teams were on
really
the cusp for a couple of years and weren't able to do it.
Well, but I mean, look, the eternal hope, Edward, is that they get things right in free agency. They fill the major gaps that they have in free agency on their team right now with free agents. They have an obvious gap on the offensive line. All right, fill that through free agency. Get a veteran offensive lineman that makes all the sense in the world. They need a pass rusher. They need more speed at linebacker. They probably need another defensive back. You know, they can fill one more of those holes through free agency. Then you've got the third pick overall in a draft. And if somehow you're able to trade out of that and pick up a couple extra picks in the first 2 rounds, let's say you have 4 picks in the first 2 rounds instead of 2, you're counting on those guys to be impact players. And then all of a sudden you've cobbled together a team that could compete. But you have to get it all right, and that's not the easy part of doing it. And, of course, people look at Bob Quinn and say, well, he doesn't have the track record of getting it right, so I don't believe in it. And, okay, well, that may be. But guess what? He's got the kick at the can right now. You don't. And somebody else that you'd rather have doesn't have the kick either. It's Bob Quinn's kick at the can. They've got to kick it through the goal.
Let's go to Joe in Canton. What's up, Joe?
Hey, John, thanks for taking the call. Perfect segue. Everything begins with the free agency. And if we look at getting a backup for Stafford that's adequate, maybe somebody who is better than what we currently have, then the opportunity to draft at a quarterback at 3 is that quarterback could be the bridge until the Alabama quarterback can come into play if we want to move that way. But everything's going to be predicated on what you see they do in free agency. Are they going to address the offensive line better? Are they going to get another running back? Are they going to, because they're in a win now mandate. So everything that we're talking about in drafts and stuff, it's all going to be predicated on what they feel in free agency, because if they have to win now, you're going to go get veterans and try to win. If they do have the green light from Mrs. Ford to trade, Matt, then they can look at, okay, we can get a backup quarterback now, draft the quarterback we want, and try to protect this investment for the next 2 years. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I think you're probably right, Joe. And look, if they wanted to, they could go and spark a wholesale rebuild, move Stafford, move Slay, and get a ton of future assets. I mean, that would be one way they could go about this. The NFL is built in such a way that in most NFL towns, you can think, we can bounce back and win next year. Like the Lions I'm not the first to make this comparison. Everybody's made the comparison. San Francisco was in Detroit's shoes a year ago. Quarterback got hurt, season went down the toilet. Made a great first-round pick with a rush end, which could be Chase Young. And we've got all these people telling us Chase Young's better than Nick Bosa. Outsider opinions, not Homer Buckeyes or wannabe, like begging for it to be true. Lions fans, these are outside opinions telling us Chase Young's better than Nick Bosa. And if Chase Young falls into your lap, Stafford comes back healthy. The template's out there. Now the team was probably better than Detroit to begin with, given. But a bunch of cast-off running backs helped them lead. I mean, because Bo Scarborough helped lead the line, right? I mean, you can't tell me that Bo Scarborough has a chance to be. There's nothing about Raheem Mostert a year ago that made you go, well, that guy's going to be great, and Bo Scarborough can't be that.
Right.
I mean, it's weird how that worked out for San Francisco. They did a great job. Could Detroit do that great job? I get being skeptical about it. I get it. Fully get it.
They can, but it'll be with Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, well, that'd be great too.
Yeah, you said it right, Doug. And by competing, that means playing for a playoff position. You know what I mean? If you're in it for a playoff position in the NFL, you're competing now. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean like you have to be in the Super Bowl, but if you're in that area where you're 8-8, 9-7 in the NFL, that happens all the time, from last place to first place. And you mentioned San Fran, but that's not the only one. I mean, there's every single year for like the last 12, 15 years, a last place team in their division has ended up winning that division the following year. This is the NFL. It's very rare to find a team, and there are a couple, but more than a handful that would say they're going to lose a lot next year, no matter what.
All right, let's start to play some of the Briquette stuff. We appreciate your patience with that. We'll get to that coming up next. The Lions insider, what he has to say about this deal, and maybe the most news-breaking thing he said was what he said about Darius Slay. That is straight ahead, so leave it locked in to 97.1 and on the stream at radio.com and also streaming the video at 97.1 The Ticket.